Hello, everyone. Welcome to Read Aloud number 13. We're on chapter 12. It's a dreadful discovery. We just found out that Lizzie and her boyfriend um, are stealing from the storage rooms, and Lena's not very happy about it. And so, chapter 12 is a dreadful discovery. What could it be? Oh, here we go. About a week after he and Lina had seen the man come out of the mysterious door, Doon was assigned to fix a clog in Tunnel 207. Turned out to be easy. He undid the pipe, rammed a long, thin brush on it, and a jet of water spurted into his face. Once he put the pipe back together, he had nothing else to do, so he decided to go to Tunnel 351 and take another look at the locked door. It was strange, he thought, that no announcement about the way out of Ember had come. Maybe the door had not been what they thought it was. So he set out for the south end of the pipeworks. When he came to the roped-off passage in Tunnel 351, he ducked in and walked along through the dark, feeling his way. He was pretty sure the door would be locked as usual. His mind was on other things. He was thinking of his green worm, which had been behaving oddly, refusing to eat and hanging from the side of its box with its chin tucked in. And he was thinking about Lina, whom he hadn't seen for several days. He wondered where she was. When he came to the door, he reached absently for the knob, and what he felt startled him so much that he snatched his hand back as if he'd been stung. He felt again carefully. There was a key in the lock. For a long moment, Doon stood as still as a statue. He then took hold of the doorknob and turned it very slowly. He pushed on the door and it swung inward without a sound. He opened it only a few inches, just enough to peer around the edge. What he saw made him gasp. There was no road, or passage, or stairway behind the door. There was a brightly lit room, whose size he could not guess at because it was so crowded with things. On all sides were crates and boxes, sacks and bundles, packages. There were mounds of cans, heaps of clothes, rows of jars and bottles, stacks of light bulb packages, piles rose to the low ceiling and leaned against the walls, blocking all but a small space in the center. In that small space, a little living room had been set up. There was a greenish rug, and on the rug an armchair and a table, and on the table were dishes speared with remains of food, and in the armchair facing Doon was a great blob of a person, whose head was flopped backward so that all Doon could see of it was his upthrust chin. The blob stirred and muttered, and Doon, in the second before he stepped back and pulled the door closed, caught a glimpse of the fleshy ear and the slab of gray cheek and the loose, purplish mouth. That day, Lena had more messages to carry than ever. There had been 5 blackouts in a row during the week. They were all fairly short. The longest was 4.5 minutes, Lena had heard. But there had never been so many so close together. Everyone was nervous. People might ordinarily walk to someone's house or sending messages instead. Often they'd even come out in the street, but beckon to the messenger from the doorway. By 5 o'clock, Lena had carried 39 messages, most of them more or less the same. I'm not coming to the meeting tonight. Decided to stay home. I won't be into work tomorrow. Instead of meeting me in Cloven Square, why don't you come to my house? The citizens of Ember were hunkering down, burrowing in. Fewer people stood around talking in groups under the lights in the squares. Instead, they would pause briefly to murmur a few words to each other, then hasten onward. Lena was on her way home to Miss Murdo's. She and Poppy had moved in with her all their things. When she heard rapid footsteps, startled, she turned and saw Doon racing toward her. At first, he was so out of breath he couldn't speak. What is it? What is it? Said Lena. The door, he panted. The door 351. I opened it. Lena's heart leapt. You did? Doon nodded. It is. Is it the way out? Lena whispered fiercely. Is it the way out? No, Doon said. He glanced behind him, clutching Lena's arm. He pulled her into the shadowy spot of the street. It doesn't lead out of Ember, he whispered. It leads to a big room. Lena's face fell. A room? Well, what's in there? Everything. Food, clothes, boxes, cans, light bulbs, stacks of things. Everything. Piles and piles of the ceiling. His eyes grew wide, and someone was there in the middle of it all, asleep. Who? A look of horror passed over Doon's face. The mayor, he said, conked out in a big armchair with an empty plate in front of him. The mayor? Lena whispered. Yes, the mayor has a secret treasure room in the pipeworks. They stared at each other, speechless. Then Doon suddenly stamped hard on the pavement. His face flushed. That's a solution he keeps telling us about. It's a solution for him, not for the rest of us. He gets everything he needs, and we get the leftovers. He doesn't care about the city. All he cares about is his fat stomach. Lena felt dizzy, as if she'd been hit in the head. What will we do? She couldn't think. She was so stunned. Tell everyone, said Doon. He was shaking with anger. Tell the whole city the mayor's robbing us. Wait, wait. Lena put a hand on Doon's arm and concentrated for a minute. Come on, she said at last. Let's go sit in Harkin Square. I have something to tell you, too. At the north end of Harkin Square stood a circle of believers, clapping their hands and singing one of their songs. Lately they seemed to be singing more loudly and cheerfully than ever. Their voices were shrill. Coming soon to save us, they wailed. Happy, happy day. Near the gathering hall space, something unusual has happened. 20 or so people were pacing around, carrying big signs painted in old planks on big banners made of sheets. The signs said, What solutions, Mayor Cole? And we want answers. Every now and then the demonstrators would yell those slogans out loud. Lina wondered if the mayor was paying any attention. Doon and Leah found an empty bench on the south side of Harkin Square and sat down. Now listen, said Lina. I am listening, said Doon, though his face was still red and the look on his face was stormy. I saw Lizzie coming out of the storerooms yesterday, Lina said. She told him about the cans and Lizzie's new friend Looper and what Looper was doing. Doon pounded his fist on his leg. That's two of them doing it then, he said. Wait, there's more. Remember how I thought there was something familiar about the man who came out the door? I've remembered what. It was the way he walked, sort of dipping over sideways, and also that hair, that black hair, all unbrushed and sticking out. I've seen him twice. I don't know why I didn't remember who it was right away. Maybe because I've only seen him from the front. I took a message from him on the first day. Doon was jiggling with impatience. Well, who is it? What was it? It was Looper. Looper, who works in the storerooms, Lizzie's boyfriend. And Doon? Lina leaned forward. It was a message to the mayor, and he gave me, and it was this: delivery at 8. Doon's mouth dropped open. So that means he's taking things from the storerooms for the mayor, and he's giving them to Lizzie and selling some in his store. Oh, cried Doon. He slapped his hand against his head. Why didn't I get it before? There's a hatch in the ceiling near Tunnel 351. It must go right up into the storerooms. Looper comes through there. That's what we heard the day, remember? A sort of scraping. That would have been the hatch opening. Then a thud, his sack dropping through, and then the sound like someone jumping down and landing hard on the ground, and then walking slowly because he was carrying a load, and walking quickly on the way out because he'd left it all for the mayor. Lina took a deep breath. Her heart was drumming and her hands were cold. We have to think what to do, she said. If this were an ordinary situation, the mayor would be the one to tell. But the mayor is the one committing the crime, said Doon. So then we should tell the guards, I guess, said Lina. They're next in authority of the mayor, though I don't like them much, she added, remembering how she'd been so roughly hustled down the stairs from the roof of the gathering hall, especially the chief guard. But you're right, Doon said. We should tell the guards. They'll go down to the pipeworks, see for themselves that we're telling the truth. Then they can arrest the mayor, and I'll have all the stuff put back into the storerooms, and then they can tell the city what's been going on. That's a much better idea, said Lina. Then you and I can get back to what's important. What? Figuring out the instructions. Now that we know that the door we found wasn't the right one, we have to find the right one. I don't know, said Doon. We might all be wrong about those instructions. They could just be some old pipeworks tool closet. He made a sour face. Instructions for Egerston. What's Egerston? Or Egersman? Or whoever he was. Why couldn't he have been just an especially stupid pipeworks guy who needed instructions to find his way around? He shook his head. I don't know. I think maybe those instructions are just hogwash. Hogwash? What's that? It means nonsense. I read it in a book in the library. But they can't be nonsense. Why would they have been kept in a box like that, with that strange lock? But Doon didn't want to think about the instructions right now. We'll figure it out tomorrow, he said. Right now, let's find the guards. Wait, said Lina, catching hold of his sleeve of the jacket. I have one more thing to tell you. What? My grandmother died. Oh, Doon's face fell. That's so sad, he said. I'm so sorry. His sympathy made tears spring in Lina's eyes. Doon looked startled for a moment. Then he took a step forward and wrapped his arms around her. He gave her a squeeze so quick and tight it made her cough, and then it made her laugh. She realized all at once that Doon, thin, dark-eyed Doon, with his troublesome temper and his terrible brown jacket and his good heart, was the person that she knew better than anyone now. He was her best friend. Thanks, he said. Well, she smiled at him. Let's go and talk to the guard. They crossed the square and climbed the steps of the gathering hall. Sitting in a big reception desk outside the door of the mayor's office was the assistant guard, Barton Snood. The same one Lina had encountered her first time there. Snood looked bored. His elbows were on his desk and his chin was moving very slowly from side to side. Sir, said Doon, we need to speak with you. The guard looked up. Certainly, he said. Go right ahead. In private, said Lina. The guard looked puzzled. His small eyes darted back and forth. This is private, he said. No one else is here. But anyone could come along, said Doon. What we have to say is a secret and very important. Very important, said Snood. Secret. His face bright and grunting, he raised himself up from his chair and motioned them into the narrow hallway off to the side of the main hall. What is it, he said. They told him, as they spoke, interrupting each other to make sure they got all the details. The guard's eyebrows gradually lifted higher and higher over his eyes. You saw this room, he said. This is true, are you sure? He was chewing fast now. You mean the mayor? You mean the mayor is... At that moment, a little way down the hall, the door opened. Through it came 3 more guards, including Lina spotted him by his beard, the chief guard. They strode forward, talking to each other in low voices as they passed, and the chief guard threw a quick glance at Lina. Does he recognize me? Lina wondered. She couldn't tell. Barton Snood finished his sentence in a husky whisper. You mean the mayor is stealing? That's right, said Doon. We thought you should be informed because who else can arrest the mayor? Once you've done that, the guards can put all the things he's stolen back where they came from. And then tell the city that a new mayor has to be found, added Lina. Barton Snood leaned heavily against the wall and rubbed a hand over his chin. He seemed to be thinking. Something must be done, he said. This is shocking, shocking. He started back toward his desk, and Doon and Lina followed. I will make a note, he said. Taking a pencil from the desk drawer, Lina watched as he wrote slowly on a scrap paper. Mayor Stealing, secret room. Then he'd finished. He let out a satisfied breath. Very good, he said. Action will be taken. You may be sure. Some sort of action, quite soon. Oh, good, said Doon. Thank you, said Lina, and they turned to leave. The three guards were standing by the main door of the gathering hall as Doon and Lina went out. The chief guard moved aside to make way for them, and they went through the door and out into the wide front steps. Lina glanced over her shoulder before the door swung closed. She saw the chief guard striding toward the reception desk, where Barton Snood was standing up, leaning forward, his eyes shining with important news.